Good morning, friends. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss one important case law, Budhadev Karmaskar versus State of West Bengal, Criminal Appeal Number 135 bar 2010. The Supreme Court bench, comprising of Justice L. Nageshwar Rao, Justice B. R. Gawai, and Justice A. S. Bopanna, has exercised their powers conferred under Article 142 of Constitution of India for issuing directions regarding upliftment of sex workers in the given case. It is a landmark judgment that paved the path for securing the rights of sex workers. This case brought into light the vulnerable state of sex workers and the social stigma attached to them. This ruling upholds the rights of sex workers to live with dignity as prescribed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. This case also prompted the Supreme Court to frame guidelines to address the plight of sex workers to avert the possibility of any mishap of the like nature. Moreover, it sensitized the general public that sex workers are not a mere commodities and they must not be looked down upon just because of their profession. The sex workers are also human beings and they are entitled to the same rights and privileges as the other members of society. The facts are given as in the year 1999, the convicted around 9:15 p.m. reached the doorstep of the deceased, who is a sex worker and live in red light area, and she denied performing and convicted brutally beaten the deceased in a fit of anger and beat her to death, banging her head several times on the floor, smashing it, and thrashed her with hands and legs on the whole body. This was witnessed by four sex workers. The blood was incessantly oozing out of her nose, head, and ear. The deceased was declared dead on arrival. This was barbaric and heinous incident that happened with one sex worker and got highlighted, but every day these incidents take place in red light areas which are often neglected, and many more sex workers have lost their lives due to such incidents and brutal behavior. The brutality of this case shows the actual conditions of sex workers in our country. Subsequently, the convicted were punished under Section 302 IPC for murder and imprisoned for life. An appeal was filed by the convicted. The SC rejected the appeal and on 19 July 2011 constituted a panel consisting of Mr. Pradeep Ghosh as the chairman of the panel, Mr. Jayan Bhushan, senior counsel, Usha Multipurpose Cooperative Society, through its president, Darbar Mahila Samanvay Committee, through its president, secretary, and Roshni through Saima Hassan. In the arguments made by the appellant in Buddhadev Karmaskar case, they were as the learned advocate appearing for the appellant vehemently denied all the charges framed by the prosecution. The learned advocate submitted that the statement made by the eyewitness Asha Khatun during the examination in chief cannot be admissible under section 164 of Code of Criminal Procedure, as she did not turn up during the cross examination. To substantiate the same, the learned advocate relied upon the case of Raghuveer Singh versus State of Uttaranchal. It was also submitted that none of the residents of the area where the crime took place were summoned as witnesses. Owing to this reason, the learned advocate wanted to cast a shadow of doubt on the prosecution story. The arguments given by the respondent in the given case were the prosecution case suggested that the relationship between the deceased and the accused was sour and they quarreled at intervals. The prosecution case produced the injury report made by a competent physician that stated that deceased was beaten by the accused through fists and legs. The report also found that there was a total of 11 injuries in various parts of face and forehead that resulted in her death. The prosecution contended that 8 out of 11 injuries were sufficient to cause death in the ordinary course of nature. In the decision, Supreme Court dismissed the appeal by order dated 14th February 2011, and in the same order the bench suo motu converted it into public interest litigation and recommended that the central and the state to consider the schemes related to uplifting of sexual workers. The court accepted the recommendation of constitutional panel towards improving the standards of life with respect to Article 21 of the Indian Constitution for sex workers and directed its implementation to the concerned authorities according to the order passed in the matter of Budhadev Karmaskar versus State of West Bengal that accepted the recommendations of panel in year 2016. The court, in its order made on 19th of May 2022, has issued the following directions which will protect sex workers till a legislation is made by the Union of India. So, this is a recent guideline which has been issued by Supreme Court in this regard, in this case. First one is equal protection of law shall be provided to with respect of age and consent. The police shall refrain from interfering and taking criminal action against a sex worker who is an adult and has given her his own consent. If any sex worker makes a complaint regarding any offense, the police must take it seriously and act in accordance of law. If any sex worker is a victim of sexual assault, they shall be provided with proper assistance like any other sexual assault victim, including medical assistance with respect to Section 357C of Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, read with guidelines and protocols given by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in 2014. Third one is running a brothel is unlawful, but sex worker working with consent is legal. Therefore, if a raid takes place, no sex worker shall be harassed, arrested, penalized, or victimized. The state government may direct regarding the survey of all Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 protection homes so that the adult woman that has been detained without her will can be reviewed and processed for released in time bound manner. Police and other law agency shall treat all sex workers with dignity and shall not abuse them physically or verbally as they are also human beings and are entitled to be protected under law. The Press Council of India shall be urged to issue appropriate guidelines for the media regarding not to reveal the identities of sex workers during the arrest, raid, and rescue operations, whether as victims or accused. Media should not publish or telecast any photos that results in disclosure of identities. Section 354C of Indian Penal Code should be strictly enforced on media against telecast the photos. Measures that sex workers employ for their health and safety must neither be construed as offenses, just like using a condom, it should never be seen as an offense. The central government and the state government should include the sex workers in decision making authorities, panel, or for any other recommendation when there are decision making processes, including planning, designing, and implementing any policy or program for the sex workers, or formulating any change, reform in the laws relating to sex work. In the next slide, we will discuss one another important case law given by Supreme Court. Till then, thank you very much.